guys, Stephanie here, and I'm back with more movie chatter. And what I have for you today are a few picks of the week. It's January, and then you know what that means. It's a little slow in the theaters, it's a little slow in the new releases. It's just that time of the year when the movie community kind of goes into a little bit of a lull. But I do have a couple new releases, and then I grabbed some catalog titles off the shelves from films from a little ways back. Hopefully you guys haven't heard of them, or maybe you just want to revisit them. And then you can decide. I'm just going to give you a few bullet points on each one. I'm not going to go into big reviews. We'll just do little mini bullet points so you can decide if they're movies you'd like to rent, stream, or possibly add to your collection. And my first one comes from first-time writer and director Jonah Hill, and it's mid-90s. And maybe you guys have heard about this one. It's just come out in the last few weeks. It's a coming-of-age movie. We meet our main character, Stevie. He's 13 years old. And this movie is set, obviously, in the mid-90s. And Stevie comes from a home where he lives with his mom, who's a single mom, his older brother, played by Lucas Hedges, and his brother just kind of beats the crap out of him every day. I mean, the kid's running around with a black eye, cuts on his head, and he just does not get along with his brother. And he just leaves the house, and he is out in the world trying to figure out where he fits in, who he identifies with, what he wants to be, where he wants to be, because he's really not sure what he wants to do with himself. And he comes upon this skate shop, and he's kind of hanging back looking through the racks, and he hears the guys in the skate shop talking, and they're bigger than him, they're older than him, and they're all into the skating, and he's really taken with them. He's very enamored with these guys. So he goes home and he convinces his older brother to give him his old skateboard so he has some way to fit in at the skate shop. He goes back and he starts hanging around, and they let him fill up their water bottles, and they let him hang out and watch them skate. And little by little, he works his way into this group of guys, and they kind of take him under their wing. They give him a nickname. I think they call him Sunburn. And they take him under their wing. They look out for him. They take him to the skate parks, and he really starts to become part of this skating community. And if you grew up back in the 90s, or you were around back in the 90s, you know how big the whole skate culture and skate community was, and it was a big thing back then. And whether you're into skating or not, or you were into the skate culture or not, this movie is going to resonate with everybody. I think it's one of those coming-of-age movies. They just picked the whole skating thing because it was hot at that time, but I don't think the setting is irrelevant. I really don't think that it matters whether that is your hobby of choice or not. I think there's something in this movie for everyone, because I've never been on a skateboard, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought the writing was on point, the cinematography was really well done, I thought the pacing was good, the soundtrack was amazing, and I am admittedly not the biggest Jonah Hill fan. I don't mind him, I just feel like a lot of times he plays the same character in every movie, and sometimes it works and sometimes it just feels stale. But for his first effort as a writer-director, he hit it out of the park with this one. So I am really excited to see if he continues with this writing-directing thing and where he goes, because I think he has a really bright future as a writer and a director, because he did a really great job with this one. And I totally underestimated it. But like I said, I don't want to give you guys too much, because there are some spoilers that I could do in this, but all I can say, really good coming-of-age movie, takes place in the 90s, it's totally got that vibe, and like I said, whether you're into the skating or not, irrelevant. I think you're really going to like this one. So if you want to rent it or stream it, I would say go ahead, but I think this is a really safe blind buy, because I know for me, it's one that I'm definitely going to want to pop in and rewatch from time to time. But yeah, mid-90s, it's a good one. I would definitely give that one a look. And this next one is from 2010. This is one of the catalog titles that I pulled off the shelf. It is called Bedeviled. And this one was suggested to me quite a while ago from my friend Nathan Jones, who you guys have probably heard me speak about a few times. I'm going to link him in the description. Go check out his channel. Give him a sub. Tell him I said hello. And this is a Korean film. It comes under the genre of horror, drama, and thriller. And I would say it's a little bit of all three. We have these two young ladies who grew up on an island. They grew up there together, and the one gal decided to leave and go to Seoul, where she became a businesswoman. And we meet her at the beginning of the movie. She's having a hard time at work. She's snapping at the client. She's having a really hard time. She's kind of stressed out. A couple things have happened to her, and she's really stressed out. So her boss sits her down. He says, listen, take a vacation. I don't care where you go. Just go, take a vacation, and relax. So she's been in contact with this gal, who's the gal that's still living on the island, and she decides, all right, I'm going to go back, I'm going to visit the island, because I guess she's been asking her to come back and visit. That's the gist I got from it's subtitled, so that's what I got from the subtitles. So she goes back to the island, and she has planned to stay in the home of her grandfather, who's now deceased, and her friend who's left behind has cleaned the house. It's immaculate, because she says, after all these years, how is the house so immaculate? And the girl kind of smiles and says, we were waiting for you, we're excited for you to be here. And right away, when she gets to the island, you feel like there's something off. The women are very stoic, they're very stern. They say, oh, she's not going to stay here, she'll be gone in a day. And right away you realize that the woman who stayed behind, along with the other women on the island, really are kept there, and they're kind of slaves. They're like performing slave labor. They have to do all the heavy lifting while the guys make all the money. They raise bees that produce honey, and they go and sell the honey to the guys who bring the boats over. They grow potatoes. The women have to pick the potatoes and get them ready to sell. Everything that they make money on, the women have to take care of getting prepared for them to sell to this one boat who comes back and forth from the mainland to this island. So it's a very remote location. It's not easy to get to. And what we quickly find out is that this gal who has stayed behind, she has a child. She doesn't know who the father of the child is, but she's now married, and she is in a very abusive relationship. She's abused by her husband, his brothers, his friends. She's abused by everyone, physically, emotionally, you name it, and it goes on. So this is a tough watch. It's definitely a violent film. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of sexuality. There's a lot of things that go on, and it is just not a good situation for her. And her friend, who's come to visit, her childhood friend, seems to really have detached herself from the reality of what's going on in this island. And she really doesn't seem to believe how bad her situation is, and she doesn't understand why the girl just doesn't leave. And she's worried about her daughter. She has a young daughter. She's worried about the daughter. She feels like her husband might be sexually abusing the daughter. And her friend just really doesn't believe her. So I don't want to tell you too much more, but what I can tell you is things take a lot of turns, and they get violent and they get ugly really fast. And the beginning of this film feels like it's a little bit slow, but it's because there's a buildup. And once it hits that peak, things really get into full motion, and you will not be disappointed. I can tell you, I enjoyed this from beginning to end, and I like when movies have a bit of a build-up, because you get to know the backstory and you get to really understand what's going on there. And there is this undercurrent of fear and anxiety through the entire movie, and you can just tell that all the women on this island are petrified of these men. They will not cross them because they're afraid for their lives, and that's what I'm going to leave you with. But this was really well written. The story moves along at a good clip. The cinematography is beautiful. Wherever they shot it, the island they shot it on is beautiful. And the things that go on, there's blood and guts and gore and violence and all that stuff. So, that's what you're getting with this one, but you're also getting a really, really good story. So if you're into that kind of thing, I would definitely say check out Bedeviled. I was not disappointed. And Nathan, thank you for the recommendation, because I really did enjoy it, and I think you guys will too. I will link it down in the description if you want to pick it up on Amazon. I'm not sure where you can stream it. Maybe on Netflix. It may still be on Netflix, but I also think it may be on Amazon Prime. But I'll definitely link it in the description, and you can check it out. And the next one that I have does not have a physical release. It is only available right now on Amazon Prime. It stars Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet. It's from 2018, and it is called Beautiful Boy. And it's based on the memoirs of David and Nick Sheff, who are a father and son who are dealing with the addiction, the son, Nick, his addiction to multiple drugs. He was doing pot, alcohol, cocaine, LSD, crystal meth, heroin, you name it, he did it. And we meet the main character, David, who's played by Steve Carell, and his son Nick, who's an 18-year-old, played by Timothy Chalamet. And we quickly find out that Nick is a very accomplished young man. He's a very talented writer, as is his father, David. They're both very talented writers, and David is just so proud of Nick, because Nick has applied to 6 different colleges, gotten into every one. But over the course of a few months before he is supposed to go to college, we find out that Nick is also an addict. And David had no idea that his son was completely lost in addiction. He doesn't understand. Nick goes missing for days at a time. David doesn't understand where his son went, because he always thought he had a really good relationship with his son. And by all accounts, they did. We see flashbacks of him growing up and things they did together and how they talk. And David really does try to be a good father to him. And he is. But addiction doesn't care about that. And that's what we learn from this movie. And no matter how much David loves his son and tries to save his son, what he is coming to realize is that you can't save them, and that they need to go through what they need to go through and save themselves. And this is a really good look at addiction and the cycle of addiction and recovery and relapse and recovery and relapse, and just how the whole cycle goes. And it doesn't just focus on how it affects the addict, but it also shows how it affects the whole family unit. And it is a really very accurate and realistic look at addiction and the importance of understanding the disease and the process. So I would say I would highly recommend this one, whether you have addiction in your family or not. I think it's a great film for everyone to see, and the performances were amazing. If you didn't know better, you would think that Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet were really father and son, because their on-screen chemistry is amazing. They both give amazing performances, and they are so believable as a father and son. They did a great job. The writing is good, and like I said, it's based on their memoirs, and the pacing is good. And it is not a feel-good movie, but it's not meant to be. But it's, like I said, it's a very accurate portrayal of a really, really bad disease that afflicts many, many people and many, many families. So if you haven't seen Beautiful Boy, give it a look. Check it out on Amazon Prime. It's free on Amazon Prime. I don't know if there's going to be a physical copy. I would assume at some point there will be, but as of right now, that's the only place I know of that you can check it out. But if you have Amazon Prime, definitely look at Beautiful Boy. And my next one would be this is another one that a few people recommended, and it is called The Handmaiden. It's another Korean film. And this one centers around, we have a very wealthy Japanese woman, and then we have a Korean handmaiden, but she's actually from a group of con artists. They're thieves and pickpockets and all these different kind of like petty crime people. And they set up this con where the girl who's the pickpocket is going to be the new handmaiden for the very wealthy Japanese woman. And the plan is for her to kind of set her up so that her uncle can come in and take her fortune. And I don't want to tell you too much about this because it's so easy to give this plot away. What I can tell you, and this is a Korean film, it's in English subtitles, what I can tell you is this film takes so many twists and so many turns. Just when you think it's going one way, it's going another way. And it will keep you guessing right until the end credits. But this was a really fantastic film. It is also a very sexual film. It's a very graphic sexual film, but that's also part of the story. So this is definitely not one for the young ones. This is definitely adult content. There is some violence. There is, like I said, there's graphic sex, but the story is amazing. It's a very, very compelling story. And like I said, they're setting this woman up for this whole con artist situation that they've created, and they want to basically take her fortune, but we're not really sure who's good and who's bad until the very end. And I think you're really going to be surprised, because I know this one kept me guessing the whole time. And again, I thought the writing was great, the pacing was great. It felt a little slow for the first like 20 minutes, but once it picks up and it starts to go and you figure out who everyone is, it really moves along at a nice clip. And the cinematography and the costumes and what, it was beautiful. It was a gorgeously shot movie. So yeah, definitely The Handmaiden is one I would definitely check out. And like I said, very adult content, but it kind of fits with the story. When you get the whole story, you'll understand why there's such graphic sexuality in it. but this one is definitely one for the win. So I'm not sure where you can stream it. I don't know if you can stream it, but I will link the physical copy down in the description box, so if you want to pick up a copy, it's definitely a good one. I know you'll probably want to watch it again. And then we had, of course, the big new release last week was Halloween 2018. If you haven't seen it, I did do a full review on it. I will link it up here. I'll put a card up here. You can just click it. It'll put it off to the side and you can watch it after. But I think I like this better the second time when I watched it at home. So you can watch my review. It's still pretty accurate. I still kind of feel the same way, but I think I liked it a little more at home. And this is the Best Buy exclusive steelbook. So this is the 4K version. The 4K looks good. That being said, I don't know that you necessarily need the 4K on this one because the Blu-ray looks amazing. And I don't think the 4K is that much of a jump from the Blu-ray. So if you want to save yourself a few dollars, I would go with the Blu-ray on this one. But yeah, this is definitely one. If you're a Halloween fan, you definitely have to have it in your collection. So yeah, Halloween 2018 would be my last pick. So those are my picks for the week, and hopefully you found something or a few somethings that you want to check out, rent, stream, or add to your collection, or a combination of all. And I want to thank you guys as always for watching. You know it means everything to me that you guys even bother to show up. So if you enjoyed this, please give me a like, leave some comments, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when I upload my videos again. And I'm going to be back real soon, but that is going to do it for today. So for now, that's a wrap.